everybody, it's Shantae. I am filming a March wrap-up. I did read 8 books and I really enjoyed quite a few of them, but some of them I didn't. I also DNF'd, and if you don't know what DNF means, that means did not finish. I DNF'd quite a few of those books. Today, I'm going to be giving a wrap up on what I read for the month of March. I'm going to be doing it in this way. I'm going to tell you the title. I'm going to tell you the name of the author, my star review, and a brief synopsis on how I digested the book. This is my second time recording this video. I accidentally lost the edited video, so hopefully it's just as fun and enjoyable as the one that I recorded. I'm using my iPad so that I can look on my Goodreads because I track all of my books on Goodreads. So if you have a Goodreads, you can follow me at Shantae Norton. I'm on there and I'm pretty thorough with my Goodreads. So let's get into it. So the first book that I'm going to talk about is a book that I literally just finished yesterday. It's called She Who Became the Sun, and it is written by Shelley Parker Tran. I gave this 5 stars. It is just so good. So as a person who has studied yoga and like growth mindset and stuff like that, this was the book for me. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. It's about this girl, and it's set in like an ancient Chinese fantasy land. So there's a lot of rural building and things like that. It is a historical fantasy. So if you're not into historical fantasies, this probably wouldn't be the book for you. So just to give you a brief synopsis, it's about this girl who was in this family, and right away, I'm not giving a spoiler anyway, right away, her family, something happens and they go to this like fortune teller, and the fortune teller tells her that, well, tells her brother that he's going to be like great and he's going to be like all that and he's just going to like be the man of the land, whereas her, she's just going to be a nobody. So he ends up dying really early, and all of her family did as well. And so pretty much she's like, I'm
that fate, I'ma need that.
she took it. So she ended up going through this journey of trying to fulfill the fate that was given to her brother that she decided to take. So good, so good, so good. She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker Tran. That was probably my most enjoyed book of the month. My next book that I enjoyed so well, Favors by Erin A. Craig. It is just such a good book. What this book is about is it's about a girl. Her name is Ellery. And Ellery was born in a family of beekeepers, and they're in this like small kind of historical town that kind of like keeps women like barefoot and pregnant type stuff. And so in this town, stuff start happening. They start getting like plagued, and things start happening to the crops and the animals, and then the people just like go nuts trying to figure it out, trying to figure out who these strangers are that came into the town. If you like witches and blights and plagues and stuff like that. It kind of reminds me of this book called The Year of the Witching. I really enjoyed this. I read this in about 2 days and I gave it 5 stars. So it's really good. Mystery, historical fiction, kind of horror too, but it is considered YA, but I wouldn't say that it's a YA book. Next book that I read is called Yinka, Where Is Your Husband? It is a story written by Lizzie Domilola Blackburn. I enjoyed it. I thought it was funny, but I only gave it about 3.5 stars, which I rounded up to a 4 star. This story is about a Nigerian girl. Her name is Yinka, and she's 30 something. She has like an education from Oxford. She works in finance, and she's just trying to prove herself to her family. And they're like, Yinka, you're not married. You're a nobody. And she's just trying to like find her a husband so that she can be on some type of timeline for a wedding. It was good. It was funny. I think that the author could have gave us more for Yinka. I feel like Yinka deserved a little bit more. We did get a nice resolving wrap up at the end, but I don't know. I don't know. I just felt like I needed more. Book I read for the month is called The Wolf and the Woodsman, and it is written by Ava Reed. It's like one of them book talk books, so everybody's like, oh, you should read it, blah, 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 and I read it, and so it's like a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and she has like some special abilities, and she was shunned in her town, so this woodsman got her, and he's taking her on this voyage to get rid of her with his emperor. It's like a enemies to lovers type fantasy romance. It was very atmospheric, but it was like too much atmospheric. It was like she was doing the most, like describing the color of blood and describing how cold it is outside. And it was just like, okay, Miss Reed, we got it. Can we move forward? The romance was good for what it was. It's okay if you're into those type of books, those like TikTok type smut type stuff, then it's okay. I don't consider this like a smut book. I consider it kind of like a fairy tale, but it was good for what it was. It took me a while to finish it though, because I had started it about almost when it first came out, almost a year ago, and I'm just now getting to finishing it. The next book I read was called The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea, and the author is Heyyyyy. I gave this a 3.5 stars that I rounded to a 4-star. It's a fantasy book, and it's like a fairy tale book, and if you know me, you know I love fantasy, fairy tale, retelling type stuff. So it was inspired by some ancient Japanese mystery, mythical type situation. It's about a girl. Her name is Chung, and Chung has gotten away of a fate of her brother's wife. So in their particular town, the sea god, which is a monster that lives in the sea, takes a woman and makes her his bride, and he was going to do that to Chung's sister-in-law. Chung said, no, I'm not going to allow that happen. He's in love. I volunteer as tribute.
Take me.
She was just kind of aggravating. I loved her as a character. It's written kind of whimsical, but it was just like a lot of her thought process wasn't in depth. So she did things that even I as a reader was just like, why would you do that? However, it did wrap up deliciously. I love that part about it, but it was good for what it was. I thought I needed more. I don't know, maybe it was just kind of where I was or where I am in my life. I'm just not there. So I gave it a 3.5 or a 4-star, which is an enjoyable time. The next book I read was a book that I'm kind of embarrassed that I read it. But I read it, and at the end of the day, I enjoyed it. It's called Crave, and it is written by Tracy Wolf. It's a fantasy romance. So I was kind of like one of those people where those Twilight type books, I was just like, why do people read stuff about vampires and all of that stuff? I just never got into it, even as a teenager. And now as an adult, it sounds like that's what I'm getting into, but that's where I am. It is considered a YA book, but I don't think it's YA. Character or the protagonist in the story, her parents had just died and she became an orphan, and her uncle took her in and made her come to his school because he's like a dean at this school, and like some weird stuff starts happening. There is a couple budding romances in there, and she figures out that it is not the normal situation. If you like vampires, witches, warlocks, that type of thing, this is the book for you. I enjoyed it. I ended up giving it a 2.5, rounded up to a 3 stars. The only reason why I kind of lowered it so low is because I had to read up to 70% to really, it was just like, should I keep going? Some people said I should keep going. I decided I was going to keep going because I was on a vacation this month, and I was trying to read stuff that just wasn't so deep and stuff that I could follow easily while being distracted, like while I'm driving or things like that. So I ended up finishing it, and I'm glad I did. Am I going to go to the next part of the series?
Yo.
The next book I enjoyed was by the Beverly Jenkins. It is called Rebel. I love this book. I gave it a 4 stars, 4.5. I rounded it up to a 5 stars. It is a historical fiction. And the thing about Miss Jenkins is that she just be dropping knowledge, dropping it. And as you're reading and you're enjoying a romance, because that's what this is, you're also learning a lot about history. So this was a historical fiction set back in right after the post-Civil War era. So you're learning a lot of history stuff that's not really written in books. So I really enjoyed that. A lady, her name is Valinda, and she's a teacher, and she's just struggling trying to get her school back up and run, and they're obviously going through racism and segregation and all of those things. She meets a guy named Captain Drake Levesque. I hope my husband don't hear this, but I love him. So anyway, she meets Captain Drake Levesque. They ended up, obviously, it's a romance. The romance buds. My only critique, and that's why I gave it a 4.5 stars, is because we read romance for one reason, right? And those encounters did not happen until halfway at the 50% mark, and it wasn't a full encounter. If you know, you know. And then the last encounter was literally at like 95% of the book. So if you are reading romances just to read that, just know Miss Jenkins really held out on that, and the anticipation was kind of what kept me going. It's short, it's written really well. It's a good book, and it's a good story, and I do plan on finishing the series. The next book that I read, Lured by Dusk by Angela J. Ford. This is on Kindle Unlimited. Just the cover intrigued me, to be honest. I was just looking for some fantasy type reading, a fantasy romance, and this fulfilled that. It is also written by a Black woman, so that was an extra plus. I am enjoying it, and by the time I edit this video, I probably can say I will have enjoyed it. I gave it a 4 stars. The only reason why I didn't give it a 5 stars is because it had a lot of typos. And I kept noticing that, and then I was distracted, and then when I'm the type of reader that I start looking for stuff, so then I'm looking for it and I'm not really enjoying the story, and then I'm going back. So I should have been done with the story. Anyway, it's about a lady. Her name is Tanith, and she's an orphan. She's a recently became orphan, but she's not an orphan because she's an adult. But she ended up going to go live with her uncle, who is a king or like an emperor of this small town, and he's abusive and he's mean. So she's like, you know what, I gotta go, but in order to go, I gotta go make some money.
So I'm finna go make this money by tomorrow.
And what she decided to do was to rob this temple. Robbery attempt, she ended up like spilling some blood over one of the jewels, which awoke this ancient piper, and he woke up like hell on wheels. He was just ready to get his revenge, and then the story goes from there. It is an enemies to lovers type story. I just enjoyed it for what it was. It's fun to read. It has witches, warlocks, dragons, all that type of stuff. It has love and romance. It has that fantasy and magic, and it's just a good book. So if you're looking for something like that, written by a Black woman. There it is. She got quite a few of them on Kindle Unlimited. I'm going to go ahead and check them out a little bit because I really enjoyed it. Let's get into what I DNF'd this month. If you don't know, a DNF is when you do not finish a book. I DNF quite a bit. Y'all gonna come for me. And honestly, I don't know if I care. So the first book I DNF point is Ashes of Gold. Ashes of Gold, I got to about 20%. You can see where my bookmark is. I got to 20%. It is a part of the Wings of Ebony duology, which I read last year on spring break, and I really enjoyed it. This year, it's just going into like African inspired type fantasy, and I just don't feel like reading that. I don't know. It's just not what I'm into at this moment, but I am going to finish it because it's such a beautiful book, and everybody in the booktubes says it is wonderful. Off DNF is Blood Like Magic. I got right in the beginning, and it like, what's wrong with me? Like, it was talking about blood, and I didn't feel like hearing it. But the title is Blood Like Magic. But if I'm not enjoying it, what is we doing? So I'll probably finish it later. The Changeling by Victor Laval. I probably won't finish it. I was bored. I got 50% in. I got about 50% into the book. I got too bored, and I decided I'm just not going to finish it. So I'm not. The Starless Sea. Y'all finna come for me. It's by Erin Morgenson. Everybody said it was so good. I also DNF'd her other book, The Night Circus. It reads pretty well. It listens pretty well. It's whimsical. However, Zachary is just getting on my nerves. Just too many character perspectives. Hard for me to follow. It's March. I was trying to vacation. I'm trying to read books that are easy to flow. So I'm going to go ahead and probably restart this. I got about 20% in. I'm going to probably restart this, I want to say this summer. The next book I DNF'd is called The Love Songs of W.E.B. Du Bois. It's by Honore Jeffers. It just comes with a lot of trigger warnings. I got to maybe the first 10%, and every time I was reading it, I became triggered, whether it was murder, whether it was infidelity, abortion, all those types of things. And I just don't be wanting to read that. So I'm not going to. So I'll probably end up selling it because I don't think I can return it to where I bought it from. So if you're interested in buying it, let me know. Don't come for me. It's Jade. It was boring. So I got halfway through, I want to say about 47% through, and I was bored. And I'll probably finish it just for the sake of everybody on BookTube and Book Talk is like, oh, you should finish this book. But I was bored, and that has to be okay. That concludes my March wrap up. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment box. If you have anything you think I should read, go ahead and let me know. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.